What is going on, all of you amazing gamers out there in the world? I am Mega Amster. Thank you for checking out this YouTube video here. Whether you are a new or returning viewer, I appreciate you spending even just a little bit of your time here. And today I wanted to talk about an interesting but kind of important topic, especially in the last few years of the gaming industry. I mean, this has been going on for a while, but especially in the last few years, I feel like it's become so prevalent in the news, and there's been so many examples of these video game acquisitions that have been happening. And on the surface, they're really bad. You know what I mean? I hate when people get excited about corporate buyouts or, oh, I hope this company buys this company. Like, for example, I hope Xbox buys Sega. Like, why? Like, it's ultimately a bad thing because corporate buyouts can lead to exclusive games, or even if it's like timed exclusives on like specific platform holders, for example. It's just ultimately bad for the industry. There's less competition. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's all just capitalism driven and almost never works out for consumers and the developers involved. Think about them, right? They're getting bought by a larger company that can ultimately result in them getting laid off. And we're going to get into a few examples of the bad, as well as a couple examples of some good stuff, which did kind of spawn this video, as you can probably tell by the music and the GIF on the screen right now. We'll get into that later because I want to end with the good stuff. But let's just jump into it quickly, talking about video game acquisitions in general. I know these have been happening for pretty much ever. Well, especially the last two decades or so with the video game industry. But it really, the last few years, we've seen so many bigger companies buying smaller ones. It's been very interesting how much has happened. It could just be the media reporting more and more on this stuff, but I think it's also just been happening on a more common basis as well, which I really don't like to see. It feels kind of gross. You know what I mean? Here is Pocket Gamers from last year, as of this recording, their biggest gaming acquisitions of all time. I'm kind of talking about some different ones. I'm not sure about the EA one. I didn't pay attention to that. I guess it's a mobile studio for like licensed games. Did EA really need that? No. It's all just capitalism driven, right? Mojang's an interesting one. Let me know, Minecraft fans, in the comments below. This is almost 10 years ago as of this corporate buyout. Let me know what you thought of this one, because to be honest, I wasn't fully paying attention to the gaming industry when this one happened, but I feel like Minecraft is bigger than ever, especially because of, Xbox. I mean, I could be wrong. I have no idea, but it's still a weird thing. I mean, it was a smart, it was a smart acquisition on their end. And we know how kind of a iffy person Notch, the original creator, was. So without Xbox buying them, may not have gotten kicked out. Who's to say? I can't really speak too much on that, but maybe some good to come out of it. But still, it's still like a corporate buyout. It's kind of a weird thing. We'll get into Embracer Group, all right. And Sony buying Bungie. I'm looking for other examples here. There's been quite a few, and you'll notice a lot of these massive ones are in the last few years. 2021, 2023, 2016 when Activision Blizzard bought King. That was a huge one because Candy Crush and other mobile development, mainly Candy Crush. Actually, it seems like it might be only Candy Crush. But now Microsoft owns them too because they bought Activision. Same thing with Microsoft buying Bethesda. That was a big one back in... Oh, really? I thought that was 2021. Huh. It's a date right on that? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe they just didn't announce it until 2021. But Tencent, that's another big studio buying other stuff. Take-Two buying Zynga for a lot of mobile development stuff, because a lot of these big publishers investing in the mobile space here. And of course, the big one, Activision Blizzard, which has had ramifications even to this day, and obviously went through the whole FTC hearings and all of that business, because it was just such a big deal, right? Almost $100 billion, which is a ton. So ultimately, just kind of gross stuff going on here. So not really great. And there's been a lot of like recent examples that have really not been great. Recent news has been with Bungie, because Sony, right? It's funny because Bungie originally was with Xbox working on Halo, and of course they did the old Halo games. Now 343 over at Xbox works on those games, and once they were working on Destiny and Destiny 2, Sony scooped up Bungie. What was that, 2022, I think? Oh, this is very recent as of this recording, this article here, just about a week ago. Right back in, I believe it was 2022. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. When they scooped them up, because Sony was at the time looking to go more into the live service genre and wanted Bungie's expertise on that. And unfortunately, very recently, as of this recording, there's been mass layoffs at Bungie, with Destiny 2 seeming to wrap up and just things not looking too great over there. And essentially, Sony was allowing Bungie to act independently for a while, and everything seemed okay, especially because, like, from Bungie's perspective, there was some article from one of the team members saying that, like, or ex-members of Bungie saying that, like, if Sony hadn't bought them out, they might not have been sustainable and they would have just gone under. So on the surface, it's like, oh, maybe that was a good thing. But then we've had these mass layoffs, and it's almost a fifth of the studio being laid off, which, you might not necessarily think that is a lot because they give these percentages like, okay, it's only a fifth, that's not bad. But that's 220 people, as this article is saying. Like, that's a lot of people who are getting laid off because Sony bought them out. They weren't doing so good, and they had to lay off people. And, these companies will say that these layoffs are necessary and are required. It really sucks. As someone who's been through layoffs, not in the gaming industry, but another industry, it's not fun to deal with. So this has been recent talk of this is just an example of something not working great, especially because now Sony's backscaled a lot on their live services. They canceled a bunch, including the Last of Us multiplayer that was going to be happening, that they asked Bungie to come in and take a look at. Bungie said, nah, this sucks, shut it down. And now they're laying off a fifth of Bungie, So, not that they could have known in hindsight, but it doesn't look great. It really doesn't look great. So definitely not a great example. One of the worst examples I could think of is Embracer Group. Talk about growing way too fast and buying all this crazy stuff. And granted, now they've sold off a bunch of the studios. They sold off Gearbox, they sold Saber, Interactive, they sold a bunch of stuff, which is now crazy. 120 internal studios, 230 games in development, 850 IP. So this article was originally written in 2022. And we've heard since this just how crazy it's gotten. Originally, they had, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Borderlands. They had a bunch of licensed stuff. They were doing the Destroy All Humans remake. They were doing the SpongeBob games. Pretty much THQ, all of that was under Embracer Group. So it's a Swedish holding company. Coffee Samfire Games, Saber Interactive, Deca Games, Easy Brain, Asmodee, Aspire, I believe, is under Saber. I know there's a whole diagram. Definitely go check out the diagram of Embracer Group if you're interested. They're a lot of the ones who do those remasters, like especially Star Wars remasters. Apparently, Saber Interactive is still working on the Knights of the Old Republic remake. Who knows about that? But yeah, they own so much stuff. And, they were banking on, a $1 billion deal with like the Saudi Arabian government, and that fell through. They were banking on one super risky deal, and everything fell apart. Like, this is the example, I think, of the worst corporate consolidation. Darksiders, they own that as well. They own too many IP, they own too many games, and granted, they've shed off a bunch of their stuff. Like I said, they sold Gearbox, they sold Saber, they sold some of their IP, like I believe Gex, Deus Ex, a bunch of those. Right, because originally, I'm trying to remember, Square Enix originally owned some stuff too. I don't know. It's weird how IPs exchange hands. I can't even keep track of them all, to be honest. It's crazy. I don't know. They've shed a little bit more, but I don't see how a studio like this is sustainable. To me, this reads as money hungry, investors and businessmen just buying all these studios, and a lot of them layoffs left and right, just completely being unsustainable. And it sucks. Imagine being a dev under Embracer like that. I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that. Final one we're gonna go through, which is still pretty bad in my opinion. It's tough though, because I'm iffy on this one. So of course, the big one I mentioned earlier, Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard King, right? Owning Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty. Call of Duty's the big one, of course, and people are very contentious about that. And this was huge, 2022. For what was it? Yeah, $70 billion. Like, that is absurd. The biggest acquisition in the gaming industry we've seen. And maybe even ever. I don't know. But it's crazy how much Xbox owns now. And, we heard about, even just with some of their other studios underneath that in Bethesda, which we'll get into in just a sec here, that I don't know, there's been layoffs left and right after these acquisitions at Microsoft too. And it's not a good look to buy these studios and then lay people off. Now, the one silver lining, which is going to lead into the second part here a little bit, is talking about, like, we heard rumors back in, when did they start? 2021. I mean, even earlier. I started hearing about them in 2021, but we heard about them earlier, even before then, about just the awful workplace culture that existed at Activision Blizzard. There's many accusations of sexual harassment. Bobby Kotick, the pig that he is, burying that. And now he's out finally, but of course he made a lot of money on whatever severance package he got coming out of there, like so much money, so he doesn't care. The optimistic side of me wants to say that Xbox buying them maybe helped weed some of the toxicity out of there, but it's really hard to say because I don't know. Like, there are still plenty of people who worked at Activision previously who are still there under Xbox, and I mean, who knows what to say with that still maybe lingering. I don't know. I mean, if there are any articles that have been updated on that situation, definitely send them my way, because I will definitely take a look at those. But as well as just like the layoffs that happen and just like owning this many IP, it's kind of scary when a company this size owns this many IP. And for example, Toys for Bob, right? Toys for Bob, they almost went under, right? They bought their own independence to get out of the Xbox leadership. And I hope the best for them. I'm really hoping. I know they're still partnering with Xbox on whatever next game they work on, which is probably a new Spyro based on what they've been teasing. But like, still, after that, they're an independent company now. I'm curious to see if they get bought out by somebody else, if they continue to be sustainable. I don't know. You know, I'm hoping for the best of them. I really hope they can stay independent. If they need to be bought out for the money, like whatever, hopefully they end up being okay. But owning this many IP, it's always a scary thing, you know? But I do want to get into a couple highlights, including a very recent one that honestly I think is a win. One that I want to talk about related to workplace culture is a famous one. This is regarding Nintendo buying Retro Studios, who were, of course, the developers of Metroid Prime, all the Metroid Prime games. They are currently working on Metroid Prime 4, as well as Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii and Tropical Freeze on the Wii U, and now Switch for both of those. But if you want to learn more about this whole story with Retro Studios and Nintendo buying them out, definitely go watch Digital Gaming. They have a ton of videos kind of talking about the behind the scenes. There's one video in particular that goes behind the scenes about the development of these three games, especially with the first one, because the first one was rough. Apparently, there was a ton of crunch involved with Metroid Prime 1's development. There was also weird behavior from Jeff Spangenberg, who is the original founder of the company, doing like really weird stuff with his money outside of work, and just kind of not giving the company a good look. And there was some weird stuff going on. Nintendo bought them out. Hopefully, I mean, I'm sure there was still crunch on Prime 2 and 3, and hopefully not 4, but 4's development has been kind of iffy, so we know about that. It's been weird. But with 1, apparently it was like a death march, according to the devs, and supposedly it got better with 2 and 3, with Nintendo overseeing development of stuff. They got rid of Jeff Spangenberg and made it better. But essentially, this was back in. This is an old IGN article from May 2002 is when it was originally written. I think it was right before Prime launched. Let me know in the comments below if that's the right timing. But yeah, they became the majority owner. They purchased from Spangenberg, and then they eventually cut him out of that. Yeah, Spangenberg decided to pursue other interests. Opportunity to become majority owner made itself available. There you go. So yeah, it's ultimately like, I mean, it's another corporate buyout, but I feel like there is silver lining of something like this where, you know, there's a toxic workplace culture. Nintendo came in and seemingly made it better. I mean, seemingly is the key word. We don't have confirmation for sure, but this was described as a death march by employees. So it seems like it's gotten better under Nintendo's jurisdiction, but who's to say? There's also been issues in Nintendo and not layoffs, but like talks, especially with contractors, about like work culture and how all that's been. So everything's not all hunky dory there, but I mean, I would honestly describe this as a good buyout. It's not huge, and I mean, it worked out for Nintendo, it worked out for Retro. They got rid of some toxic work culture, and for the better. Now, this next one is the one I'm going to talk about the most, and that spawned this video, of course. As someone who's a huge fan of Hi-Fi Rush, my game of the year for 2023, developed by Tango Gameworks, we heard about, and I was pissed, because we heard about how they were working on a sequel. They were pitching a sequel to Hi-Fi Rush under Xbox. And granted, I think it might be Microsoft leadership coming in. They came in, they shut down Tango, they shut down Arcane Austin and a couple other studios. And man, it was devastating, especially for Hi-Fi Rush because it was received critically super well. Maybe financials weren't crazy, but such a creative game, one of Xbox's most unique games in the last decade. Just amazing art style, characters, the music, as of course you're hearing, absolutely fantastic, and really fun action combat. Like I said, it was my game of the year 2023. And I was devastated because they were working on a sequel and I would have bought that immediately. I was like, I'm excited to be invested in Xbox now. And then saying they need more unique games and then shutting down Tango Gameworks in particular, brutal. However, earlier this week as of this recording, and this is a weird one, the publishing firm Krafton bought the Hi-Fi Rush IP and Tango Gameworks. Now, what's weird, so the team to continue developing this Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects. What's weird is that Krafton is the publisher of games like PUBG and Callisto Protocol. This is it's a really, really weird person to come in and acquire Hi-Fi Rush and Tango Gameworks. But you know what? Like, they still have to prove themselves because ultimately Krafton will give them funding. They will make some of the decisions for Tango and decide to go or no go and what projects they work on, right? I'm still holding out in case Krafton is like, nah, screw you. But the fact that they came in and literally rescued Tango, you know, the fact that Xbox was able to sell them off and Krafton bought them is amazing to me. Now, Krafton, I believe, is a South Korean publisher. Definitely correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But this is crazy because, yeah, there will be no impact on the Steam catalog of those. Yeah, it's crazy to me that this random publisher, Krafton, came in and just bought Hi-Fi Rush. Like, I'm curious what the business decision was there. Like, I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was successful, but this seems like a weird game for this publisher. You know what I mean? If it was like Sega or like somebody else, I feel like that would make so much, even Nintendo, I feel like that would make so much sense. But the fact that Krafton, I'm not really familiar. I've never played PUBG or Callisto Protocol. I hear iffy things about Callisto Protocol. PUBG, of course, was big for like the Battle Royale genre. This is crazy. I mean, I'm really happy that the team was bought out. Like, it's weird to say that, but I'm so happy that they were bought and that Hi-Fi Rush is not dead, because Xbox wouldn't have done anything with it. The fact that Xbox let the IP be bought means they wouldn't have done anything with it. So the fact that Krafton came in and acquired the studio Tango Gameworks and the Hi-Fi Rush IP is fantastic. I mean, who knows? Maybe since Shinji Mikami's doing his own thing outside of Tango, maybe now that Xbox no longer owns them, maybe he comes back on and like assists with the sequel. Because I mean, I imagine there's going to be a sequel or a spin-off at this point because of specifically calling out the Hi-Fi Rush IP. And personally, I love that. I'm ecstatic. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of corporate buyouts, but this is one of those cases where it's like they bought this company to save them because Krafton knows Tango has so much potential. Xbox, despite what they say about wanting new, fresh games and like, oh, we love Tango, they don't care. Krafton came in and scooped them up. We still have to see what Tango produces for Hi-Fi Rush and maybe other IP under Krafton, but I'm happy that the studio is alive and well and supposedly still able to do stuff with the IP. So this is the one that spurred this video. I'm very excited about this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Before we end here, quickly, just wanted to shout out this interesting one that I wasn't too hot on at first, but after like following up on and thinking about it, this is actually really cool. Not quite a buyout. This is talking about Inner Sloth, who are the indie developers for Among Us, of course, really big game, especially exploded during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. They formed this game fund called Outer Sloth, makes sense based on the name, for funding a bunch of indie games. So they had 8 games currently: Battlesuit Aces, Project Dosa, Mars First Logic, Monster for the Archives, One Button Bosses, Rogue Eclipse. One of these I think was, yeah, Battle Chef Brigade, Thirsty Suitors, like critically acclaimed studios who have critically acclaimed games from these different studios. Yeah, new games from Venba and El Paso have also been funded, but yet to be revealed. So the fact that it's not quite a buyout, right? But I just wanted to shout this out as like a really cool like little indie thing of like these like a company that has this much success like Innersloth kind of, being able to assist in development like this. I think this is really cool because otherwise these studios may not have made these games, without this kind of funding. And that's really where the good side of corporate consolidation comes out on, because if, you're pretty much rescuing a company, whether it's from toxic culture or just like being completely shut down because of lack of funding, like having some of these studios and companies come in and support that funding can be really good. We heard about a similar situation with Psychonauts 2 with Double Fine. There's a whole documentary on that. Go watch the Psych Odyssey documentary. It's a really good gaming documentary. Just hearing about them and how they, were able to receive funding from Microsoft. Microsoft bought them out. I think that was a good buyout, honestly, because they received the money they needed for Psychonauts 2, and I just recently acquired that game, but I hear it's a fantastic game, and I'm looking forward to playing it eventually. There is a good side to it. It's really, most of these buyouts, especially from the big publishers, Take-Two, Xbox, Sony, Activision Blizzard, I mean, hell, even Nintendo, they don't do a lot of acquisitions, thankfully, but like when they do, it's usually more strategic. But even them, it's Embracer Group. Oh man, it's gross. It's just driven by greed and money most of the time. But there are some silver linings here, like with Retro, with Hi-Fi Rush especially, and even indie scenes. It's really, there is some light in this dark tunnel. It's mostly a bad thing, but I just kind of wanted to highlight a few good examples as well. I'm gonna end this video before it goes on too long. This is me just kind of ranting at this point, but that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about video game consolidation, because yes, I mean, on the surface it's a bad thing, like objectively, for consumers and developers, but there are some cases here where it actually can save some IP, save some studios from kind of going under, or help clean up companies. It is helpful. Let me know if you have any examples of some gaming acquisitions you really hate, some that you actually enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you all on the next video or live stream. Take care, have a good one. Keep on gaming. Just remember, capitalism drives this industry. We can still enjoy games, but keep the developers in mind too, who are affected by stuff like layoffs and acquisitions. But with that, I'll catch you all later. See ya.